Get ready.
Hi, my name's Kaz Riley, and this is Trancing in the Sheets, brought to you by the Hypnosis 247 Live Network. And I have a returning guest today, but with a completely different subject, but full of insights, full of advice, and a really cool product to match. Trancing in the Sheets with me again, I have my good friend, amazing lady, very talented hypnotist, Freja Njorden, who today, as always, is the sensualist. But today we're going to talk in particular about ejaculation control, which certainly is a topic that working within sexual freedom is something I'm asked about an awful lot. So welcome, Freja, and or welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. I'm so glad you could have me again.
So I know. So I know that you have a new product out, and it's called, very simply, ejaculation control, isn't it? But let's talk a little bit about what ejaculation control is, because that covers a spectrum of things. And actually, interesting, it's not always about ejaculation, is it?
No, not at all. So for me, ejaculation control is just having the ability to control when you ejaculate and how much pleasure you have leading up to it, if you decide to actually ejaculate. And one of the things that I really like to kind of get home with clients is that ejaculation is not the point of a sexual engagement. It's just the release of your sexual tension. And if you think about it as being just the release instead of the best part, then it means you have so much more potential in terms of what you're doing before it and whether you even need to ejaculate at all, because it's not the orgasm. So ejaculation and orgasm are two separate processes.
Absolutely.
And orgasms are infinitely different and enjoyable, and it's not just that sort of, pulsing contraction and release of semen. It's it can be a full body experience or an experience just in your head. For people who are not really in their bodies very much, it can be all over the place. And when you take the sexual energy from the genitals and either move it or expand it through the rest of the body, then you can have these wonderful, amazing, sometimes lengthy orgasms, sometimes very spiritual, sometimes loving, sometimes just raw and primal. And the ejaculation is just like, taking the release valve on an air mattress and letting it out. That's it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when you look at things like Tantra and things like lingam massage, which I know people just think about lingam massage as being just a massage of the penis, but it's not, is it? It's almost a full body thing. It's moving energy around the whole body. And, people that, I get very good at that, can move that orgasmic energy around their body. They can feel it in different places, full body orgasms, without actually ejaculating, can't they? So this is something, ejaculation control is not a new concept at all. It's been around for thousands of years, hasn't it?
Well, controlling the release of the sexual energy is what, according to these principles, give men their vitality and masculinity and discipline and makes them better men and better lovers. And there is even, and I don't quote me on any of this, but I know that there is a section in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich about sexual transmutation, where you actually take your sexual energy and you apply it towards, in that case, money and business. So it's a very powerful tool once you can harness it.
Well, when you think about a lot of sports teams, they kind of ban sex and ejaculation, masturbation, don't they, prior to big games, for that very reason, to kind of channel that kind of energy. So, I mean, this is kind of out of sexual experiences, isn't it, where that energy is kind of aimed and redirected. But even within sexual experiences, the energy can be there, but it's not necessarily about the release of semen. And when we think about as you say, orgasm, people kind of, one, see it as the goal of sex, and two, see ejaculation as an orgasm. And actually, neither is true. Both of them actually don't equate to good sex. We know that orgasmless sex is very important, but also, pleasure is a much bigger aspect of sex than ejaculation is, and orgasms can be very separate. People can orgasm several times. Men can orgasm without releasing any ejaculate, which then of course means if they want to, they can orgasm again and again, which is a pretty cool idea, isn't it? It's a cool thing.
People think that kind of pleasure is reserved for women. It's
No.
not.
So tell us about this product, because one of the things that I know about you is that you walk, you talk, everything you do is based on your experiences with clients, with the people that you see. You develop things, you test them, you refine them. That is the hallmark of any of the work that you do. So tell us kind of the journey of the ejaculation control product, which has ended up being as 2 tracks essentially, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. So I had a program, a recorded program before for ejaculation control, and it was a hypnotic program with suggestions, the control panel for the ejaculation and stuff like that, as well as direct suggestions to have the control. And also, now, is it, just so I know, is this is for hypnotists, or is this for everybody?
This is for everybody. Yeah, this is for everybody, hopefully. Yeah. So
no jargon if it's for everybody. So, and then there was a special thing that they could do when it was time to ejaculate for them, and it worked really well, but not for everybody. And so I went back to the drawing board, or the massage table, because I learned from my clients. Actually, like, thousands of bodies on my table has resulted in this. And I realized that if you could really focus on what the elements of arousal are, and in hypnosis we call these submodalities, and but these specific elements of arousal, and control them, and be able to use your own mind, as the man, use your own mind to direct, control, play with, move, manipulate your arousal, then you basically are in control of your ejaculation. And part of that is also the nervous system, because it's a nervous system response. So if he is highly, highly anxious and wound up and very highly strung, then he has to bring himself down, because you need to sort of settle the body down before you have that type of how it developed.
When you think about one of the things when men arrive at the office with premature ejaculation, obviously what they have is anxiety, that they've often got a lot of anxiety about it. So you can see how, they would then have that kind of anxious energy within them that then needs kind of bringing down. And it's not necessarily just about performance anxiety. It's just about anxiety, isn't it? About the whole thing. It's not necessarily just about having sex. It's just, there's all kinds of stuff that causes that anxiety.
Some people are, just generally speaking, highly strung in their lives all over the place, and they're more likely to have premature ejaculation. But so they've got that. They're sexually excited, which has revved up their nervous system. They're anxious about wanting to please their partner, more so than, like, they're more anxious about pleasing their partner than anything else. And they have this like big pile of things all kind of mounting on top of each other, and that needs to be negated. And the way I do it is, instead of regressing to some kind of cause, like the cause of premature, no, it's like having a penis and being able to ejaculate, like, there you go. So instead, if you just focus on your pleasure and focus on your body and focus on the actual arousal itself, that's all you need to do, because the rest of the things don't really, like, they're not in that container. So they're gone, they don't matter, and you're in control.
And it's interesting because I know when I was kind of in hypnosis school, for want of a better word, when you think about, you know, and also when you think about some of the traditional methods of how to deal with premature ejaculation, you know, people are told ridiculous things like just distract yourself and focus and revise the name in your head of every member of your favorite football team. And, you know, I know when people come here, I say, for goodness sake, don't do that. There can be nothing more disconcerting to a sexual partner than feeling like your partner's not engaging with you because essentially they're thinking about something else, or almost as if the pleasure is bad. But actually, if you can accept that pleasure and that energy, and you can work with it and learn how to control it, then what you get is not only is control of your ejaculation and your orgasm, but just a much better, engaging, satisfying experience anyway, isn't it? You know, so it's that, yeah. And of course, the law of reverse effect, the harder you try not to do something, the more likely it is to happen. So if you've been told not to think about ejaculating, then the first thing you do is start doing that. Whereas if you're told what to think about in a positive way, not a negative way, that's not a distraction but a full engagement of mind and body, then actually they're going to get a much better, more fulfilling experience and result, aren't they?
Oh, completely different, because they've spent their whole lives trying to escape their bodies and trying to escape the, oh, I get too turned on, oh, I'm too sensitive. Nobody's too sensitive.
No.
Pleasure, actually. And this is, if you want to, as a woman, if you want to reframe a man who is prone to premature ejaculation, it is so much more fun and hot and sexy and satisfying to play with a man on the edge of ejaculation where his arousal is sky high than it is with a dead doorknob who's just not really enjoying it very much. The energy is fun. And if she can think, wow, I have this man who's very sexually engaged and he's sensitive and his body is really responsive to me, that's nice. And much nicer than thinking, oh, he can't last.
Yeah. And also, you know, I know some of the things that I've said to ladies that I've worked with that way, and I've just said to them, you know, the flip side of that is that he finds you so arousing, he finds what you're doing so engaging and so wonderful that, you know, he's got an almost uncontrollable level of sexual energy in response to that, you know. And often, you know, there's sometimes women that, you know, maybe it's me, maybe it's because, you know, or they have issues of their own. And I can say, well, you know, look at it through his eyes. You're so amazing. This is so amazing that it has this effect. You know, how awesome must he think you are? And then they kind of go, oh yeah. So it's looking at things from a different angle, isn't it? Around ejaculation control, but then also learning to how to kind of get that that control in the way that somebody wants, but in a way that's always realistic, but is pleasure centered rather than distraction centered, which is the way things have gone.
Very much pleasure centered.
So how would somebody use your product, Freya? How do they obviously buy it, and then what do they do with it?
There are 2 audio tracks, and one is the initial tuning into the body and learning how to gauge where your sexual arousal is, to expand it, to intensify it, and to move it through the whole body. It's actually very relaxing and pleasurable to do that. And that same track is across the board. It's for women and men. The second track, which is specifically for the ejaculation, is now you know how to do that with your arousal and your body. Take that, and we go through the process. Like, I actually guide him through a process where he's bringing himself up to the brink of ejaculation and then doing that specific energy technique or process or arousal movement, and putting it in a safe place and seeing or feeling what it actually feels like to be receiving the stimulation on the penis, or I say the word cock, I actually say it. So receiving the stimulation, and yet somehow the arousal is safely in a place where it's not going to risk ejaculation, bringing it back, putting it out, bringing it back, moving it, and just getting used to having that control. And when they got good at that, then they bring it into sex. Because it doesn't have to be this slow, drawn out process where I guide them with my words. It can happen in a second. It doesn't need to take like a minute. It could take 1 second. They're having sex. They feel like, oh, actually, okay, yeah, things are close. I don't want to come yet. Okay, shift the arousal. That's it. It's that easy.
That's it, isn't it?
It is
And
really
but that's the thing is, you know, of course the belief they have is that it isn't, which is why it isn't, and that's the, you know, and if you believe you don't have control over something, then you don't have control over it. So a lot of it's about tapping into those belief systems and then guiding the way as to how to do this. And once they've got both of those things, then, you know, they're on the right track, aren't they? You know, because you know, a lot of people was, well, the belief is, well, I'm past the point of no return now, I'm too close. But actually it's their energy, it's their body. The idea that, you know, it might be harder to stop at some points, but that doesn't mean that they can, or that they need to be more aware of it sooner. Because if you're distracting yourself from something, then of course it's not until, you know, orgasm is imminent and your body's screaming, if you like, ejaculation is about to happen, that you become aware of it, because you've been pushing it away, thinking about your favorite footballer, which, you know, whereas if they're engaged.
If you try to distract yourself by thinking about your favorite sportsman and you keep on ejaculating while you're thinking about him, it's going to start to be a real turn on to you. Like if you just keep on conditioning that in the head.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't recommend that. You should.
Yeah, maybe that's why I love football so much. I know women do as well. Maybe we've just solved a mystery about all kind of the love of sports. No, I'm joking. We're allowed to joke, but I think it's, and there's the flip side of that as well, isn't there? Where, you know, we also, it's not just about premature ejaculation. There are men that have the opposite issue, which is they find it very difficult to ejaculate. And I know we were just chatting before we started recording this, but actually there's things that can be done there which aren't necessarily what you would think they would be. You know, it's about pleasure rather than ejaculation, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a lot of different reasons for delayed or non-existent ejaculation. And for example, some people are on medications, depression medications or different type of health medications, and it will just make it almost impossible to have an ejaculation. And those people think, oh, my sex life is ruined, or, you know, I can't have sex and this or that. And they come up with all these labels, like my libido is gone, I have no sexuality, all kinds of things, which are just
absolutely.
The only thing that is true is that for some reason, whether the reason is medication or whether it's age, because age will make it for some people, not everybody, because everybody responds differently, like everybody. Some people just don't have as much sexual energy in their system to get rid of, or the nervous system's calmed down, or who knows. For some people, they have been spending hours looking at pornography and jerking off every day for years, and that will also make it really, really difficult to have an orgasm with a partner, or an ejaculation with a partner. So sometimes people want to improve their sensitivity, and in that case, yeah, I teach them and encourage them how to have an ejaculation more easily, which is, you know, releasing the vice grip, using lubrication, tuning into the body instead of into a disassociated fantasy, and relearning how to experience arousals and sensitizing the body so that when they're with a real woman or man or a couple, then they can actually really get aroused by what's in front of them instead of needing that super high stimulation. But I don't focus on, when it's delayed, I don't focus on making the ejaculation happen faster. Instead, I focus on feeling more arousal, because forcing an ejaculation sucks. It sucks for the partner. It sucks so badly to be sitting there like, is this gonna happen? Because I'm so bored and this is unpleasant.
Well, it becomes the focus again, doesn't it? So, you know, and as women, we can relate to that sometimes. If you've ever been in a situation where somebody's expecting you to orgasm, and for whatever reason it's not happening, and you feel under pressure to orgasm, it becomes harder and harder to orgasm. And this is exactly the same thing. You know, men feel this stuff too. It's not, you know, this isn't, you know, I know you know this, but, you know, people sometimes forget. They just assume that men are orgasm focused, that it's all about that, you know, it's just that's the only pleasure they get from sex, when actually, hopefully, they're enjoying the process as much as we are. It's the sensuality and all the connection and the pleasure and the sensation. And I know there's been several men that I've worked with who have basically masturbated in a particular way, and they've got used to a certain sensation on their penis, and then that's how they've learned to ejaculate, which feels so different from anybody touching them or from penetrating sex or anything like that, that it's almost like their body just doesn't recognize that as a trigger to ejaculate. It's just a very different thing. So it's almost kind of like getting them to be able to experience different sensations that are then connected into that sexual energy, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah. And when you can increase the pleasure and the sensation beforehand, it may lead to ejaculations in different types of scenarios or episodes or whatever, or it might just mean that they have ecstatic experiences without the ejaculation, which when they're good enough, for real, like, people don't believe me until they experience it physically, which is why I do the hands-on work, because like, I don't want to talk to you and have you disbelieve me. Just get on the table and I'll show you. See the light. All of the lights. So they can learn how to have orgasms without ejaculation.
Yeah.
And then the ejaculation will come when their body's ready for it. Because again, forcing it out when you don't have the energy inside you is just it's not healthy, I don't think.
No. And also, you know, also allowing it to build as well, isn't it? You know, sometimes it's about allowing that energy to build rather than it kind of just, you know, we want you know, just a flow, if you like, sometimes. And again, it's back down to belief systems about what people believe good sex looks like. And I know we both challenge that belief a lot, that it's not necessarily what they thought it was. Otherwise they would find it completely fulfilling. And if they're having fulfilling sex, they tend not to find themselves in our offices, do they? You know, that's so it's sometimes it's a bit of common sense, but they'll often tell you that they do when actually they can't possibly, as they would never be there in the first place, which is an interesting thing. So this product, it's a brand new product. It's very different, I think, from anything that's been around hypnotically or otherwise on the market before, because it really does address those kind of issues and that energy rather than just distraction and, you know, all the kind of stuff. It's much more of a holistic way of doing it. I think that's the way to describe it. So where can we get this product? Where can we find it? Where can I direct my clients to buy it? How do we find it?
So if you go directly to my website, www.thesensualist.org. For now, I've stuck it right on the front page because it's new and I would like people to see it. But also, if you just do /ejaculation, then the product will turn up.
Cool. Okay, so that's www.thesensualist.org. Yeah, /ejaculation, or at the moment it's there right. Woohoo! On the front of your and we'll put a link to that on here, and anybody that's looking on my page, I'll keep sharing this out as well, because I just think this is a really cool product. It's one that truly addresses the need, and for a lot of people, you know, that can't see a therapist, you know, that would deal with stuff like this, or, you know, anything like that. And of course, even if they have, this is a very different way of doing it. So I think it will be a really useful product for a lot of men. And of course, it's on a nice, easy download as well, so they can just listen to it, and that I think do it in the privacy of their own home, and see how that all goes, and really get connected back in with themselves. So what a cool thing. What a cool thing to put together. So is there anything else that you would like to say that we think anybody should know about ejaculation control before we disappear off today?
It feels so good. Like, you really, like, it's hard to imagine how incredible and ecstatic your male body can actually feel. Because I think that the male body is kind of neglected in favor of just stroking the penis. And if you think about the amount of pleasure that your penis feels, and imagine that in the rest of your body, and what that would actually feel like literally in the rest of your body, not just sort of, oh, well, imagine more. No, really, the rest of you. So it's very, very practical, and it just requires doing it. There's no magic, just doing the steps.
And all done with the mind-body connection, and no porn required, which is pretty cool as well, isn't it?
You know, actually, the first track, which is getting in tune with the body, that's for any gender, any age. No, I wouldn't give it to children. It's an adult thing. But I just want to throw that in there just in case. But it's so if there's a woman, your partner wants to tune in more to her pleasure so that she's more responsive to you as well, or he is, then for sure.
Cool. Cool. So good for couples too. So so that's www.thesensualist.org/ejaculation. And I would check that out. That would be a great resource for people that need help that way, but also for a resource for clients as well. A good way to kind of point somebody in the right direction. So if you've enjoyed everything that you've seen today, and how could you not enjoy the wonderful Freja Njorden? She's always a pleasure, and so knowledgeable. The practicing what you preach is key to getting good results in hypnosis and therapy in general, I think. So she does that in spades. But for now, it's a goodbye from me and Freja, and we'll catch you again soon.
Bye.